Most of the hard work for validating the blockchain has already been done. The Ledger Validation class is a simple batch Apex class that iterates through the entire blockchain in sequence order, which works well because we made the sequence field an external ID, so it's indexed. There's a failed block variable that is initialized to -1 that is tracked through the life of the batch thanks to use of the database.stateful interface. The getQueryString function returns the query string to be used by the batch or other validation code. To keep things simple, we're including every field in the query. This way, even if fields are added later, we won't have to worry about missing fields. If the allRecords parameter is true, the query includes all records ordered by the sequence. Otherwise, the order term is left out. The start method creates a query locator using the getQueryString function and initializes the failed block variable to -1, no error value. That's pretty straightforward. The execute statement receives a batch of up to 200 consecutive records in ascending sequence order. These are passed to the validateOrderedBlockList method in a newly created instance of the Ledger Support class. If the return value is -1, that means there were no errors, and we go on to the next batch. Otherwise, the failed block is reported by calling the reportValidationStatus function and the batch terminated. The blockchain error record static variable is also set to the sequence of the failed block to allow the unit tests to identify whether an error occurred. The reportValidationStatus function is used to report the results of a validation. What you'll want to do is specific to your organization. I'd suggest some panicked emails and emergency tasks may be in order. You could also record the invalid status in a different object or a custom setting and then use that to block additional insert attempts, add notifications to pages using custom Lightning components or Visualforce pages, or whatever steps you deem necessary. This particular example checks to see if there is a chatter group named Ledger Validation. If so, it posts an error notice or completion notice to the chatter feed. I chose that approach to make it easy to try out the sample code. You'll see it in action later. That's all there is to it. The class also includes a validateOneBlockByHash function that validates a single transaction based on the transaction hash value. It works exactly the same way as the batch Apex, except that the query string is modified to retrieve a single ledger entry record, and only that record is passed in a list to the validateOrderedBlockList method. The Ledger Schedule Validation class is a very simple scheduled Apex class that you can use to schedule the validation job using the Apex Scheduler UI. There's also a global validateLedger method that you can call to do so directly. Both of these are fairly trivial. The example code includes unit tests for all of these classes. I'm not going to walk through them in this course. They are all very straightforward and test insertion and both successful and failed validations.